tell us what your number 10 favourite film of 2025 is.
Well, number 10, it's Jan Swankmajer, so it's Conspirators of Pleasure, and this is about people's little sexual kinks. I think there's like four characters who all kind of live in this almost decalogue type house and estate, and they all have their little sources of pleasure that they get. And it's really Swankmajer poking fun at fetish and the little things that give people small amounts of pleasure in their otherwise miserable existences. This one is more bodily functions than he usually does. This is Swankmajer doing his usual thing of, he's a provocateur, really, first and foremost. And this one has Swankmajer actually introducing it at the start. And it's got that usual Swankmajer sense of humour. If you like Swankmajer, you'll love it. Obviously, if you don't love Swankmajer, then you're probably not going to. But as I say quite often, a lot of the films that I love, you either kind of love them or you hate them.
Do you have Swankmajer films that you don't like?
No, not really.
So you're firmly in the Swankmajer camp.
If your sensibility is that kind of way, then obviously you'll like them, but otherwise you probably won't. Conspirators of Pleasure is just a pleasure, strangely enough.
Is that the highest Swankmajer in the list?
Yes, I
That's your
think so.
favourite of the year.
Yeah. Surviving Life and Lunacy are in Little Otic. They were in the top 40, but didn't make the top 10.
So my 10th favourite is The Touchables, directed by Robert Freeman from 1968, who photographed the Beatles a lot. It's very much part of that swinging 60s London scene. I don't think he enjoyed making the film at all, but you can see in it that he's got that nice photographer's eye. So this was a film that Donald Cammell wrote the script for originally. This is kind of the precursor to Performance, and you can see a lot of the same kind of threads through it. Donald stepped away, and Ian Le Frenay, the famous British writer, took over. And he also hated the whole process. But what it is, it's a story of these four 60s girls. They kidnap a famous rock star and they take him off to their secret lair, which is a giant geodesic dome, and have their way with him. It's just sort of silliness, but it's such a lovely kind of document of that time and those kind of people that were involved. It's really, really special. I don't know if have you ever seen it or seen the trailer for it or anything?
No.
Several people have described it saying the trailer is better than the film. So I recommend watching the trailer at least.
Yeah.
But it's really difficult to find the film. I just found it on some really obscure website because there's no physical release. Fox own the rights to it and they just have never ever done anything with it. But yeah, just like a really fun, silly film. Just a kind of thrown together movie, but it really does kind of capture that moment in time of that kind of 60s scene.
Number 9 is that terrible phrase, world cinema classic. It's Andre Wajda's Ashes and Diamonds.
Okay, yeah.
Which it's not perfect, but it's pretty close. But it is a little bit weird. Kind of the tone does kind of shift a little bit, and it's almost kind of three films into one.
Yeah.
The lead characters kind of seems to be from 20 years later, almost.
Yeah.
And with sunglasses that he kind of never takes off. Fascinating and also kind of out of place at the same time. So it kind of starts with this assassination and kind of ambush and kind of shootout. And it has like moments of like almost surrealism. There's a bit kind of later in the film, a white horse that just kind of turns up. Sort of random events happen in the film, but I guess random events kind of happen during war and life in general. I think I was kind of expecting kind of more, not necessarily grittier film, but it's just shot beautifully. Kind of final scenes when he's running through the fields of washing on a line. Yeah, it's just a wonderful film. You kind of get around to watching these world cinema classics, and they don't really live up to the hype, but I would say Ashes and Diamonds does.
My number 9 is I Start Counting. So I Start Counting is one I discovered this year. I'd never heard of it before. And again, a nice British film that you just think should be really well known. It's really a nice little contained story. And it stars Jenny Agutter, who's, one of the great British stars, essentially. She's such a good actress. She's so good in that role, even though she's really young in this. And that whole kind of story of, her relationship with her brother and the kind of suspicion around him. And you kind of think, well, if he turns out to be, this potential killer in Bracknell, then it'll all be a bit disappointing. The clues that she's picking up are real things that are happening, but he's got his own motivations and he's got his own story. And I thought that was really good. All the characters in it seem really real and seem to be doing things for their own justifiable reasons. So, yeah, just a really lovely little film that I'm just incredibly surprised that isn't well known when someone like the BFI could have put it out years ago and could have really celebrated it.
Maybe it's because it's almost a couple of things at once. It's kind of coming of age plus a mystery plus family stuff, and it has a kind of oddness to it as well. Again, it just comes together wonderfully.
I wonder if in making it, they kind of felt that core story wasn't enough, so the killer aspect had to be tacked on. That's almost like a secondary story, and it probably didn't need that.
Yeah, because actually the kind of characters and dynamics within the family are fascinating enough, but it just adds that extra layer of strangeness to it or cult appeal. But as you say, it's not as well known as it really should be. This might be, one of the strangest films you'll ever see. It is The Shatner, and it is Incubus. It's just one of those wonderful surprises. Directed by Leslie Stevens, who created Outer Limits. It's just one of the most unusual films. It's only like an hour and a quarter. The big thing about Incubus, apart from William Shatner being in it, is the fact it's in Esperanto.
Ĉu vi estas Violando?
Mi loĝas tie ĉi.
Ĉu vi konas la ŝosejojn?
Mi konas la ŝosejon de la Muelo kaj de la rivero.
Certainly. Estas areo por la rikolto.
You have to remember a time where Esperanto was thought to be the next big thing. It didn't quite work out that way. People have kind of likened it to like a Bergman film with William Shatner, witches and ghosts. I mean, people have suggested it takes place on another planet. It's not even Earth, but it's just all atmosphere. William Shatner gets beguiled by a succubus. It's kind of sold, or maybe it was sold originally as kind of this exploitation film, but it's not. It is a little dark fairy tale, I guess.
William Shatner is good in it, isn't he?
Yeah.
You know, I think you can kind of see his kind of star quality at that age.
It's just, if you like films that are just all atmosphere and just an oddness to them and a strangeness and just beautifully shot in black and white, it's just a wonderful film.
Had you ever heard of it before this year?
No, I've never heard.
Me neither.
That's kind of why physical media is quite wonderful sometimes. It's amazing that it's now available, considering it was forgotten about for decades, basically.
If you ever tell anyone about it, it's William Shatner and it's in Esperanto, it just sounds like you're making it up, doesn't it?
Yeah, exactly. It's like nobody has a meeting and decides this is the film we're going to make. Yeah. It's just a fascinating little film.
My number 8 is Marketa Lazarova, which is a 3-hour medieval Czechoslovakian film. Apparently it took 560 days to make, and the actors spent most of the time out in the cold in traditional medieval clothing, in lots of snow and mud. But it was voted the best Czechoslovakian film of all time by the Czechoslovaks. And apparently it's still watched religiously, I think around Christmas time. I watched it because I just saw it had loads of positive reviews and high scores. So I thought, it's got to have something to it. And it's in the Criterion collection. So, you kind of think, well, okay, let's check this out. And I thought, well, I'll watch now of it and see how I get on. And I ended up just watching the whole thing straight through. I just thought it was, a superb epic. Yeah, I don't know what to really say about that film.
Yeah, it's not a film you can really go, well, this happens and that happens. It's very much a mood piece and getting into the rhythm of it and just...
Yeah.
Almost kind of hypnotic at times. I wasn't as high on it as other people in the community are, but it was a while ago. I need to rewatch it. It's the same with Valerie and her Week of Wonders. I need to rewatch that one as well. This is actually a modern film, outrageous, but it's actually Holy Spider, which really blew me away. But it's basically a serial killer film in Iran, and it follows a female reporter who is following these killings, and of course the relationship with women and the state's view of women, because she's a single woman, even getting a hotel room causes issues. So it works as a kind of procedural very well, but obviously it works as a critique of that society's view of women. We find out kind of who the killer is fairly early on. At the start he's killed, like 5 or 6, and of course it's not really been investigated that well because of the people that are being killed. But it's kind of why he's doing it. The guy is a family man, he's not portrayed as like a 2-dimensional caricature or anything.
Mm.
And then his family's reaction to it, and it's not necessarily what you would think. There's some people that actually support him killing prostitutes, basically. And again, it works in kind of so many levels, just as a kind of serial killer film, but it does work as a political film as well. And that's what kind of good filmmakers do. They don't tell you what to think and don't tell you how you should judge these people. It's kind of left to your own devices. The ending is very good as well, because certain people think it's going to end a certain way, and of course it might not necessarily end a certain way. Beautifully shot as well. It's another film that you do get a feel for a world that perhaps you're not familiar with.
Do you know how it was received in Iran?
I think it was banned.
Okay.
Because I should have said it's actually based on a true story, sort of. I think the killer is based on the real guy. It's just an excellent film from 2022. A modern film, unbelievable.
I'll be getting to Iran at number 6, but my number 7 is kind of inspired by you, and it's Hideo Gosha's Three Outlaw Samurai. It's just a really fun film in that kind of samurai mould, and a traditional story of the kind of corrupt official who's just out for themselves, and the three samurai are very, very different, and their alliances build up over the course of the movie. They end up eventually taking the right side and taking him on.
Yeah, his films have got great energy.
Yeah.
It was kind of based on a TV show, and then this is kind of the film version.
Oh, okay. Right.
Of course, one of his regulars is Tetsuro Tampa, who I've kind of now become a bigger fan of, just because he's almost in every Gosha film.
And it's got Miyuki Kiwano in it. She's the hostage, basically, in the hut at the start. And I've really got into looking for her films now, because I kind of spotted her in this, and I started to think, well, I'm sure I've seen her in other things, but she just tends to play little bit parts quite often. Then I realised she's in Redbeard, which I watched decades ago. And so I've been working back through her filmography. I've just got The Shape of Night, which I've just never got around to picking up before. Again, you start to kind of join the dots, don't you, between all these different films. And it was, just really, really enjoyable. Really liked the characters. Really simple, really enjoyable little film. What's your number 6 of the year?
It's Far From the Madding Crowd. Certainly, if I was younger, I probably wouldn't have bothered with, but I've had it in the backlog for so long and eventually get round to seeing it. But this is absolutely gorgeous. Directed by John Schlesinger, Terence Stamp, who of course we lost this year, Julie Christie, who I've developed into like a huge fan of, and Alan Bates, who has certainly grown, in my opinion, over the last couple of years. The colours are just tremendous. Or maybe it's just Terence Stamp's red uniform. There's a great extra on the Studio Canal release where Terence Stamp said that John Schlesinger hated him. So he was just basically trying to do his best, and it gave him a lesson that not all directors are going to love you. And the famous scene in the grass dunes where he's flashing his sword with Julie Christie, that was actually done with Nicholas Roeg, who was the DP, and not Schlesinger. They just kind of went up the side and did it themselves. And of course, that's one of the most beautiful scenes in the film. There's a scene where there's a storm at night, and Alan Bates is desperately trying to buckle down all the hay, and it's just man against nature, and it's just quite impressive, fantastic. Obviously, it's about class because it's British. Again, I'm not a big fan of romantic films unless it ends tragically and horribly, and I'm all in. So I just love the way kind of fate just screws everybody over. That's the way it should be.
Yeah, well, it's a Thomas Hardy adaptation. Yeah. They never end well for the women.
So this is my kind of romance film, if you like, and just everybody's on top form. And Julie Christie's absolutely fantastic. Again, it's not usually my thing, but just because the way it unfolds and ends, just absolutely loved it.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the people that have watched your channel would never think that you'd be a fan of Far From the Madding Crowd. I wouldn't have predicted that to be in your top 10 of the year.
No, it's beat out Shatner.
So back to Iran. My number 6 is Where is the Friend's House by Abbas Kiarostami. This is a film that I just knew the title of. I really didn't know anything about it. I knew Abbas Kiarostami. And this one really, really surprised me. It's a really short film, it's 80-something minutes. And it's just a perfect little story about a boy who accidentally takes his friend's homework book home with him, and he desperately needs to get it back to his friend so his friend can do his homework. And his friend lives in the neighbouring town. The kind of schooling system just seems horrendous. His teacher is just so harsh on the kids and makes them cry and all sorts of things. It's such an important thing at that age. It's real life or death for this boy. He's really on his own on this, and he has to kind of defy his mother to kind of quickly nip out and dash to the neighbouring village. The little boy in it is really good. It all hinges on him. He's in every scene. He doesn't know where his friend lives, so he's kind of just asking lots of different people, and they're sort of saying, "Oh, I've never heard of him," or "Oh, I've heard of that surname, but I don't think it's their boy." And there's so many kind of little moments in it where you just think, "Oh, he's so close to achieving the goal," and he's always foiled. There's a lovely moment. He's tried all these different houses and different doors, and then he meets this old man who says, "Oh yeah, I know where he lives. I can take you there." But the old man walks really, really slowly. And it's getting dark, and there's no like street lighting or anything. It's just these cramped little alleyways, and he's trying to hurry him up, but it's being really polite. Then they have to sit down and have a bit of a rest. You really feel for this little lad. As you're kind of watching the film, you're kind of thinking, "Oh God, how's this going to go?" It gets to the end, and it's got just like the perfect final scene, so it just makes it really magical. It's really sweet.